Mike Gill and Qrash back together again for a very important podcast, a continuation of where we left you. And if you remember where we left you, we had an eyewitness inside the Flynn organization that took us to the J6 committee and was taking evidence on the same December 18th. But we're going to go piece at a time. All right, I want people to see our last podcast. No, just show the cover, Qrash. It is important to understand today is a continuation of that podcast. It is that Arizona meeting, the brokered convention. It was also Shelby Bush and Liz Harris not only admitting to the brokered convention, and Harris, where she brings up Patrick Burns, and I think we can tie some of that in, but brings up Staci Burk and her evidence. The evidence that she's saying she has locked away in a container, as we said here. Well, we've had developments even since this. So let's piece these pieces together so you understand. But we watch that podcast. It is hard evidence. And the suggestion is that not only did they take my evidence, that Trump has got that evidence and was stopped from delivering it against the Senate and the Congress by the Secret Service, according to Staci Burk.
Can I ask you something on that? Just to clarify, you didn't know who Staci Burk was when you entered that meeting with Shelby and Liz, correct?
Correct. I heard Staci, I heard the story on Michelle. I don't know if they called in or if it had to do with whatever it was.
Okay.
Just that somebody took her hostage. Joe Flynn came in, and the Praetorian Guards, which is very interesting because they came up in the news again.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
Right. So, in other words, something we have to consider when she referenced Praetorian Guards, and it happens to be connected into the Minnesota assassinations of a couple of politicians. You understand? Now, if this Praetorian Guard goes directly back to Flynn, like Vern Miller too, this is pretty disconcerting. Right. Thank you. So, in other words, this is disconcerting. And why this is, and incidentally, we're bringing this out now with these connections. But this is not to be missed. Now, what we're going to do is take you through that again. But you've got to see the picture of what's going on and why everybody's being upset. We're on a clock here, and I'm going to explain it to you. But what you see here from the evidence in that podcast last week brings you to the Pandora's box, meets the brokered convention, and then turn around and got the people involved in this broker, the key players, to confess on a tape. Oh, and you're going to love the rest of this. Would you believe we have another tape?
Yeah.
Another tape that she will never play, Staci Burk. All right, listen, she was a Flintster. She was, remember, I was in direct contact, her words, with Flynn, Powell, and Carissa Ketchel. Okay? Remember that because it's going to come and play. But let's see the game in more full, right? Let's start with our boy Lindell. We're going to take you back to Burke. We're going to take you back to the Arizona meeting. And we're going to take you back to J6. Okay, Lindell's been triggered. Interesting. What did he get triggered? Well, let me see. Hit again, Qrash. Well, we turn around that this guy's got a multiple of lawsuits. And now think about this. You ready? In fact, the Dominion one, right? What's that, about $1 billion? This one, Comer, number 2.
It's like more than $1 billion. I forget how much now, but
I think it's $1.3 billion. So I rounded it to $1 billion, just to be fair. All right. Now, we just had the Eric Comer trial last week, and he was found guilty, Lindell, or libel, and it was for, I think it was 2.3 million, which is not a lot of money. But if you throw it on top of the billion, it adds up. But that is not the purpose, boys and girls. Back to your thinking hats. You ready? Where did they prosecute Tina Peters? Uh-oh. Colorado, right? On the same election fraud. In fact, Peters was bringing someone in to corrupt the machines. Lindell has another side. But let's think about this. So Colorado, and now Colorado. So if all of the two cases that came together in the same state, can you say make a deal? No, let's think about this. Colorado, meaning it's a state issue, no immunities, and they can run concurrent one another. In fact, do you remember it was Lindell who was giving Tina Peters money? What
Yeah.
was that? 800,000? I gave it to her. I didn't give it to her. Well, we'll find out. And it was even Patrick Burns coming to the rescue with Tina Peters. I'm going to kill the judge with a piano wire. Hello?
I mean, who says that and gets away with it? That's what I want to know.
The government.
Exactly. You're protected.
And a loose end. See, but that's a mistake. Now, well, wait a minute. So the judge who put away Tina Peters is being threatened to be murdered by Patrick Burns. She gets 9 years, and he's still dancing in maybe Qatar. I don't know yet. We'll find out. Do they have extradition? Oh, that's right. They don't.
No.
So now, right, we got Lindell. He's being triggered. And guess what? Ready? Can you hit the next one, Qrash? I'm hoping it's this one. Oh, we're getting good. All right, really, I can't read that, but what it's saying, if you could blow that up a little. Okay. Well, Lindell is saying that the 20 election, he believed what was going on by the HBO documentary. And ready? The former national security advisor of President Trump, Michael Flynn. Well, let's remember, what was he in there for? About 22 days, so I wouldn't hang my hat on that shit too long. Now, so he's saying Flynn was a foreign interference going into the thing. Okay, so guess what? The statement, you can take that down. The statement that Lindell makes was, I followed Flynn. He was
Right.
a national security advisor. I would believe him. He told me it was election fraud. He told me. That's right. As the DOJ told Flynn to set up the insurrection across this country, what we have in this podcast, in our last podcast, is absolute proof that it was our government behind the insurrection. Flynn was an instrument of the government that corrupted. And we go back to Arizona with Staci Burk, Liz Harris, Shelby Bush. They were that instrument in Arizona as Tina Peters was in Colorado. But now Tina Peters is looking at, I believe it was 9 years.
9, yeah.
For a woman that's 68, 69 years old, that's maybe a death sentence. And remember now, I spoke to Tina Peters often. I was even on her show. I warned her all of what was going to happen. When she did the show with me, they jumped on it, stopped it, and took her off of the, what is it, Badlands bullshit or something.
Yeah, they shunned her.
But they had to be, she wasn't going to see it coming. Then, just like Lindell goes, Flynn told me. All right. Well, who told him? Burns. All right, now let's go now. So we've got, now if I'm General Flynn, I'm going to have to get a lot shorter and a lot fucking stupider. But if I was, excuse me, I would say, who endangers me the most? Raiklan would take a tank to the face. Wait a minute. Tina Peters is serving 9 years. I'd worry about a 68, 69-year-old woman looking at another 9 years. Okay, so that's number one. Let's think. Who'd be number two? He's got a lot of those. Wait, but it has to be from the inside. And we have to be talking the insurrection because that's what flips this country on its ass, the fact that our government did this. Well, wait a minute.
Yeah, the election. I mean, yeah.
It's the election that they fixed with the deal. So who'd be number two? Oh, I got it. Mike Lindell. Well, wait a minute. Lindell's 2, Peters 1. They're both in Colorado and they're both behind an 8 ball. Uh-oh. Flynn's going. So you've got to think, who's running that end round? Now that should be a question. It could be the low-hanging DOJ saying, hey, low-hanging fruit, you don't get fruitier than Lindell.
Lindell, yeah.
So pop. That's one, that's two. Wait a minute. Could there possibly be, would be number three? Staci Burk? Oh, wait a minute. She already went to the J6 committee. She was trying to save her ass. You'll hear that tape on the Arizona, and you'll understand that Staci Burk was working with all three of them, Harris, Bush, and herself. Now, she's saying they threw under the bus.
Qrash too.
Qrash Ketchel.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you. But see, that's the Arizona meeting, okay? So in other words, that ties the whole thing up. Well, wait a minute. Who was involved in that Arizona meeting you're going to hear? 700,000 Patrick Burns, piano wire Burns.
Yeah.
700,000 to Shelby Bush, who tells me the story how Burns working with the FBI to incriminate
Clinton,
Hillary Clinton. Is there a bigger sack of shit? And what did I tell them on the tape? If you get the tape in here, and believe me, they're a tape. Harris doesn't say she doesn't have a tape. She's got a tape. Shelby Bush has got a tape. And that's okay. So at that point, right? I turn around, hit the next one. Now think about this. So now they know when they're talking about it again because they think that Trump was saying it and they're trying to cover their ass. Okay. So now we've got them there and they can and watch the last podcast, but they're confessing to the insurrection, the fraud. Staci Burk was there, which is why she went to the J6. You know where these two, where Harris went? To me. And where Bush put it together, they were using me as blackmail. Just as Shelby Bush, just as Staci Burk was blackmailing. Okay, she recorded the phone call. We get another recording, remember? Let's get to it. But let's bring you back to that day, December 18th. That's when Flynn reached out to me with Qrash Ketchel. Okay, you can hit the next one. But I put you in the office, the Oval Office, on the day of insurrection, in communication with Flynn and Powell, asking for my affidavit and the settlement that leads to the Pandora's box. Okay? This is documented evidence. Those people have never denied any of it. There's 3 weeks of it. Okay, hit it, Qrash. So, December 18th. Well, wait a minute. Do you remember when Staci Burk had said she worked directly, keyword, directly with General Flynn, Powell, and Qrash Ketchel? Could you pit the next one, Qrash? Let me introduce you to Qrash Ketchel, who's married to Seth Ketchel, who is part of this Flynn operation that was in. Could you enlarge that a little bit for me?
I don't think they're married anymore.
Oh, I'm not. I don't.
I think he cheated on her or something like that,
And they both cheated on the country.
Yeah.
All right, now think about this. When Staci Burk is saying I'm in direct contact with Crystal Powell and Flynn, they're taking my evidence when she's in direct contact. And what did she say? And we'll bring it up again. She was saying that it was my evidence that they gave to Trump that was in it, that the Secret Service intercepted. And what did it say? Evidence of corruption within the Senate and the Congress. Now, on December 18th, that very day, the very day that Staci Burk was with these people, okay, they fixed my governor's race. More importantly, my campaign manager, Aaron Day. Aaron Day connected to, O'Keefe.
O'Keefe, yeah.
And Shaheen leveraged both Aaron and ran for the Senate. Shaheen paid for his ads. This was an independent as I'm having a hard time seeing it. Hassan is the senator. This would testify that both working as an undercover for the cartel. They witnessed my murder. All right, so we have two senators, okay, hit it, that turn around that we can leverage the Senate and the Congress. I have Pappas who's in the Congress as a cartel member. And I found the Pandora's box, which is the laundering network that was run by Bill Shaheen, Hillary Clinton's campaign manager, and married to Senator Shaheen. You see what I'm saying? Now, this is what Carissa and Flynn is taking from me. At the same time, could you blow that up for me? Or maybe I can see it on this.
Now,
Okay,
this is in 22. This one's in 2022, it says.
okay, well, that was a copy to Carissa that I gave to Mike
Francis, yeah.
And this is what went to Carissa, and it went to Flynn, okay? But it says the $50 million settlement. Do you remember? That's what they asked for. And at the IRS, the Pandora Papers, this was the banking department and so forth. The largest amount, the defense budget, okay? All right, hit it. So the thing here is, I'm giving what the Pandora's box is to Flynn. I'm going through Carissa, and Staci Burk is with them all. You get it?
So she's talking to them, or in direct contact is the words, with them. At the same time, you're also being pressed for your evidence.
As I'm giving those exact people the evidence that is now become the Pandora's box.
Right. Okay.
And it directly went to all of them. Okay. You see what I'm saying? So if you can look at that first thing with Stacy, with Carissa, you'll see, and James Tuckerino, all the emails on that day, and then on the 19th. So, but the point to be made is, Burke was there for the Arizona audit. She protected herself by locking down in the container that evidence that she had. She didn't release it to everybody. If you look at our communications, she was talking about the lawyer. She's not showing stuff that she could leverage with legally. All right. So in other words, hit it, Qrash. So this puts her with them taking my evidence. All right. Can you try to? Oh, okay.
I'm not sure what you wanted to show.
I can understand this. No, but this is the position. Now, Burke is saying these are her DMs to me. All right. But here's the important point, because these were points we made in the left, but I want you to understand the important points. Now, Burke put herself with them directly, right? Now she turns around and says, in this, I was basically kidnapped. Wait a minute. Now, I want to ask you something. How you basically kidnapped? And it was the A1 team, the form of law enforcement. So, this is the Praetorian Guard. Well, wait a minute. You're either kidnapped or you're not. That's these clever little bastards. You know what they do? Oh, well, there's an excuse for what happened. I was with them, but held against my will. Because if you say you were with them, you're part of the team. So basically, shit, I guess I got to be kidnapped. How's that one? All right. But that puts her in there. That puts her with them. And there's that. Okay, hit it, Qrash. And you see it on the same day of December 18th. Flynn was my favorite thing I did. Could you blow that up a little for me? Oh, okay, here it is. Ready? Now she's saying, this is important. I'm doing most of that from memory. Now she's saying, right, that she's got that tape, a recording that she heard Roger Stone and his guy, this guy Jason Sullivan. And what she's saying is that she heard that these people, the evidence that I gave them. Now she's suggesting that that's the evidence. Isn't that interesting? She was with them and working with them as they were receiving the evidence, as that evidence at that same time, right then, was going to Trump to save his presidents, which is what I was sending Flynn to do with that evidence on December 18th, and therefore. Now, she was a witness to that, understood that, but now let's think. Roger Stone. Oh, wait a minute. We don't know Roger Stone's connected to Flynn, was part of that J6 team? Of course we do. And they intercepted that evidence. They got that evidence from me. Okay, hit it. But so in other words, we've got to remember now, she listened to a tape with this Sullivan who works for Stone, as you see here, during the J6, took what is my evidence that I have proof that I gave it to them, that Staci Burk is a witness to, working with them directly, that it was that evidence and her suggestion that it was my evidence. Isn't that weird? Wow, what insight that went and got stopped by the Secret Service. Now, that Secret Service could be Flynn, or we could ask Trump, what'd you do with the evidence and why didn't you give it to the American people? And just so you know, at the same time, Elvira is at the Capitol on the J6. Elvira, you just saw him with that same Roger Stone. He didn't know who Roger Stone was, right? So now we've got another player, another victim, and who's he connected to? Clarissa Ketchell, who is Staci Burk connected to? The same Clarissa Ketchell. And what did Nick turn around and tell you all? That I was the most important whistleblower of our time. Okay, people of our time. All right, so hit it. And then he wanted to do a movie. Guess what would have happened then? It would have been a Tennessee trip instead of an Arizona trip, and they used him. And for anybody question now, we've got Roger Stone, we get Elvira again now, and we got Elvira working in his own words, and Ketchell, right? Clarissa Ketchell tells us the story, and I have a bunch of communications with him. But he puts Ketchell just as she does. He put J6 just as she does. He was that doobie in the Capitol, but he was hired by Flynn. You got it? His own words. All right, hit it. So this is one massive Flynn operation. And the Praetorian Guards that she refers to are the ones that look like, from what on the news, might have assassinated a couple of politicians in Minnesota. So when you have these morons like Pascal and KFC saying, calling for my execution, you only need one nut job, and these guys got a bag of nuts. All right,
I have a question before I hit it.
Yeah.
She has evidence. Okay, I'm just trying to process. She has evidence against Flynn. And I know we showed it in the last one, but it blows my mind that she held that evidence from the people and used it to her advantage, I guess, for what you call blackmail. I'm going to call it leverage.
Well, I'm calling it, you know what it is blackmail. And in form of the lawsuit, they're looking to get paid, as is McMahon, who's helping them. So think about this. You ready? In Arizona, let's go back. Who was the one person who turned around and said was going after me? McMahon. Like he was stealing my. Listen, deep throat. Staci Burk was feeding McMahon, and he was leveraging Flynn as he is now. They're all doing it to get paid. Now, here's the lawsuit. Now, when she went to the J6, that's to save her ass. I'm going to turn them in.
They covered it up, and she never. I mean, like you come out and you tell the people everything you know. This is this and that's that. Whether
I take the videotape with me to the FBI and the Department of Justice.
I know.
You don't have to wonder what the fuck happened. I tell you and show you in there. She didn't say a word.
She didn't say anything. And then when you called her, when did you contact her? You contacted her after that Arizona meeting, correct?
After the very meeting. So think about this. The Arizona meeting, two people in this world, other than the people inside that room, knew I was word for word with the truth. That's why McMahon met with Matthew Cuccarone, because he was in the room. He told him what happened, and then he called him, what was it, a pathological liar. Because you can't hear the story, because if you play the tape, there goes the blackmail. And I ain't playing to get paid, and I ain't watching them get paid. So the bottom line is, when I did this, Staci Burk sat quiet for a year, and you saw the DMs, the direct message. She knew. He was working with McMahon. He knew. and pretended he didn't. It was,
Right.
so in other words, if that meeting and that tape becomes public, they're exposed from working with them. That's why they called them out. That was Harrison. Oh, they were working together. Why she had the evidence and why she was suing them. Think about this. If she wasn't working with them, how'd she get the evidence?
Right.
Would she break into the? I mean, that was it. And that's what she did. That's what they all do. Now, do you remember what they all do too? They all record. All right. Hit the next one, please.
Where are we at? Okay, here.
So McMahon knew who I was. They all knew I was telling the truth, and they tried to sink it. Could you raise it? Now, this is, so you know what happened? Now, this is very important to understand. It's the methodology of how they do it. You can't argue the DMs that I'm showing your asses. You can't argue their evidence. So what you do is you attack the man. That's what she's got to do. They're panicking and they're trying to cash out and they're watching Lindell because guess what? Lindell, Peters, Staci Burk, I don't know. Remember that meeting with Patrick Burns? 1, 2, 3 gets you number 4, Patrick Burns, and Patrick Burns is the target. Now, does Patrick Burns take a stake in the heart for Flynn? Not usually, but if they give him a little something like in Qatar, where he practiced a test run of no jurisdiction, that could happen that way. Low hanging fruit. But they all get you Patrick Burns. And if you listen to the tape, it gets you Patrick Burns. Okay? So is this where I can't, is this where she said she recorded, right?
Yeah, she recorded you. I just want to say something before you read. I don't know if you can read that. When you're talking, so people that don't know, you're talking about Patrick Byrne and Qatar, meaning the country. And what he does, when he gets in trouble, he runs to another country where they cannot extradite in case he gets, indicted. So that's what you're saying, because we've seen.
That's what I'm saying, right?
Yeah. Okay, I just want to make sure people.
No,
because
I know I knew you knew, but you keep doing that,
right? But I hear a guitar like you're playing a guitar. So
oh no, the country
people that don't know, I just wanted to clarify that. So go ahead.
But that's what happens. Now think about this. Now you ready? Now Burke knew we had a tape. McMahon knew we had a tape in that meeting, and no one's saying shit. But you know what about these people are? They're all corrupt. They all record everybody. Now, I have a phone that has the exact minute of our conversations, but let's see what she says. She recorded our phone call. Uh-oh, very important now. Let's freeze. Another asshole with a tape. And
but
I'm saying...
She's saying you twisted things. Which
I'm twisting things, right.
Did not.
And guess what?
Yeah.
I'm standing word for word. How about this? Ready? That Arizona meeting? Dead on. When have you ever heard in 20 years that I've said that wasn't true? When have you looked at all these things that I've worn and shown you with the evidence and we ain't here now? That brokered convention I stopped. Not those assholes. They turned around and exposed. And they turn around with December 18th. I supplied that evidence to the same people, and that's evidence, and it's evidence in this podcast, and last podcast, and the last 20 years of what they were looking for. Now, do you know why?
I'm sorry. I asked her to play the tape, and she said, I don't have a problem playing the tape. So we had some problems then. So
well, how about this?
After I asked her, she kind of went off a little unhinged. So
she ain't playing no tape. How about this? You assholes hear the Arizona tape yet?
No.
All right. But here's the thing. We know the Arizona tape exists. So why aren't you hearing the tape? I'm saying play it. You have to play it. Now, Staci Burk, you play it. You've got to play it. And all of it, every minute of it. Would you say, oh, it's in storage in a container? Oh, isn't that where you say you put Flynn stuff in evidence in that container? Isn't it funny? You recorded it and put it in a container is your words. And if you don't think she has a recording handy, you're insane. Now, so she has a recording. I'm demanding play every minute of it. You will hear my recollection from that Arizona meeting after the meeting. And why her? Because she was brought up in the meeting. That's what pushed me to call her. I'm saying, hey, listen, You're a dangerous witness here. They're calling you out. This was part of a brokered convention, and they tagged you into the Flynn insurrection audit. It was bullshit. And they pointed to you, which is you got to hear it. So, in this tape that she says, what is she saying? Well, I got to take a couple weeks. She's hoping you assholes fall asleep. You want to hear every minute of it, right? I can't read that. Will you read it, Qrash, from
Yeah,
your end?
you didn't send me this. I just wanted to add it. It says she did say she can get it, no problem. Let us hear it. And then all of a sudden, when I questioned on it, she had a problem, and she says it'll take her a couple weeks. So I just wanted to show that because you're talking about.
Thank you. I'm telling you, she's full of shit. And you want to make sure every minute is played. You know what you're going to hear? My exact recollection of that meeting after the meeting. She was the first move. It was Michelle, then it was her. And there it was. And you'll get to hear that, and you'll hear me say everything that happened in that meeting. So it's mandatory you hear that. You have to hear that. All right? She took it. And what did she do with it? She put it in storage. What was it against? Flynn, and covered her. So now she's got an Arizona meeting, a brokered convention. She tried to leverage Flynn, the insurrection back in Arizona, and now the tape with me. Because if there's anything that scares Flynn, is me. Well, let's think about it. Where did Peters reach out to? Me. Lindell reach out to? That's right. Him and Curtis Olson spoke to me. And they even had a YouTube on it. So, wow. Think about this. When you get into why? Because I am the blackmail piece. Don't tell Gill, right? That's it. All right. So now what did McMahon? McMahon knew that there was a tape a year ago. Why didn't they play it? Mike Gill was on the tape. Well, you didn't play it. You didn't play it. Why didn't you hear it before? It's bullshit. All right, now let's think. Staci Burk is blackmailing him. Now,
Okay, before make sure you explain that because you're
well, you know something? I'll have you. You explain that.
okay. All right. You never mentioned that anybody was she was blackmailing you.
Right, never.
He said it because what you did was take his words and write it out in your we need to decipher you sometimes when you tweet. And
Right.
you said, you know, what now? And you kind of meant what now you saw this and you said, now I'm blackmailing her. And that's not
Right.
put in, it wasn't put in proper context.
But see, you know what they do?
They
They're
twist it.
spinners. That's
Right.
who they are. That's who Flynn. In fact, I'm only showing you this because it's the nature of who they are. This guy reached out to me, and you're going to see this over a year ago. All right, we're going to show you that. And we turned around, and he knew Burke had that tape of me explaining what happened. You didn't hear it. He didn't say it. They put it away in storage. That's called blackmail. Gill is deceiver every level. Really? Play the fucking tapes, you asshole. Now, don't lift a finger for helping him stabbing Poop Popper.
Okay, let me explain
From
that
our
one.
boy Matthew.
Yeah,
Right.
and
Listen,
here's the thing. He's
this
calling
is
you. Wait. He's saying, Mike, take a breath. He's saying that he's using Matthew's craziness
yeah.
to describe you, yet he's calling Matthew what he's calling a psychotic or
No,
pathological liar.
liar. And why?
So, you know,
is when Matthew told him what happened in the meeting. Now he is a pathological liar and a creepy asshole who's
right.
running for mayor. In fact, I've got a couple of photos he sent me and threats that he can use it for his campaign. But
so he's flip flopping his. He just goes with this is what they do. They just destroy the man instead of attacking the actual evidence. And she says she says you blocked her, but you didn't.
Right.
She blocked you.
Only later because she blocked me and started really erasing everything we were communicating with.
Right.
So in other words, I blocked her that was a lie, and she's blackmailing Flynn, and somehow I'm blackmailing her.
Right.
This is who they are. These are some creepy son of a bitches. I got to tell you. So. But that's the thing with that. But they're all witnesses to that. It's all about getting paid. Listen, ready? I was wealthy, famous, And it just assumed they'd kill my ass, putting their faces on the signs. And you know what Staci Burk put up to start this? Wait, oh, you got sued for, putting up information on the sign. Right, the cartel members. That's right. So, in other words, I picked death before not telling the American people who were killing their children. I chose homelessness and poverty worth hundreds of millions and famous rather than you not know the truth. Now, think about this. There's a thing that if you're standing on an island and you're against everybody, chances are you're right. Right? So, in other words, I didn't take any money. I didn't turn around and push this for politics. In fact, how many times I said this isn't about politics?
Right. It's not.
I ran independent to become governor, not to be a politician. If you watch my my campaign, I was very direct in their face and telling them who they were. But I was telling the people who they were. I was also by being in their faces because they control in fear. I was showing the people, you don't have to be afraid of these people. You stand up to them because that is what controls us. That is the fear. And that is Flynn and all his people. It's the fear. It's the white hats and the black hats. It's this, it's that. And they're into the spin now. And behind them was the DOJ, which is which Staci Burk was saying, none of them went to jail, including you, Stacy.
I would add fear and confusion.
100%. That's MK Ultra. That's the confusion. What's going on? You're looking at a war, right? And we're having parades. We're looking at, and listen, here's the importance of what this blackmail is and why they use me for. I had found, and remember what they said about Trump having that evidence to send into Congress. It is the laundering network of our Congress and Senate along corruption with cartels and foreign governments. It's the foreign governments that are working with our politicians. The Pandora Papers tracked $1 trillion in New Hampshire into the same politicians. That's their money back. That's the clean money that comes back. That's the deal. That's the bribe. So if there's a point to all this and a path, there it is. In fact, when Musk started saying auditing, it was the right path. It just had to start with the 100 people that are in the Senate first. You get them. It all falls apart. So this can work. And when Trump, they're saying, Staci Burk saying that Sullivan, Stone's guy, was saying that this is the evidence that Trump had. What evidence else could there be is the evidence that I was giving Flynn exactly at that time. You still there, Stacy?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I lost you for a second.
I had to move around. I didn't want to distract you.
Okay. Don't do that. All right, hit it.
Okay, you want to show the last two that you
yes, let's make a point of our.
All right.
Now, who's asking me for help? You filthy animal. On what is it? April 14th?
14.
Right. And he wants to collect evidence against Flynn. Right. Research and, Pandora Papers. Oh, McMahon. So the guy who didn't know anything about me was asking for my help on Flynn. Why? Because they were blackmailing Flynn. And if you're going to blackmail Flynn, you hit the next one. I'm the guy to use. But I ain't making deals. But that's what that was. So he was even lying about that. Pandora Papers and so forth, Oregon, CPC. Hey, listen, it's leverage. You can take it. It's leverage against Flynn. It's what he knew, and he was working with Staci Burk. It was a getting paid operation. That's it. What Harris and Bush wanted in that is what Staci Burk was moving. Their own protection, their own leverage piece. She's saying, I didn't know. Bullshit. Work directly. And remember, she was saying about being kidnapped. Sort of.
Yeah.
Right?
Basically, yeah.
Basically kidnapped. Basically. All right? But you see, they all knew. So when McMahon and her was turning around, he was saying, oh, there's nothing in there. He's full of shit in that meeting. They didn't want you to hear it because if you hear it, they don't get paid. You don't need their asses. Flynn's already screwed. And the same thing here. When she went up there, she didn't say she had my evidence, yet she knew what they gave her. How'd they know? How'd they know? And when he listened to Stone with the Sullivan, she put that together. How did she listen to it if she wasn't on the team? And we noticed how Elvira and Stone were on the same team at the same time she was, and they were in the Capitol. And it's a position that they tried to flip me with Elvira thereafter. You see? All
Right.
connected. They all know. So play the tape every minute. And you can get it, take 2 weeks. I'm telling you, she won't play it. And if they do it, they'll cut it up into 30 seconds or something. You want it all. Every minute of that tape and every minute of that Arizona tape. Everything I've ever said been dead on. You know why? Because it had to be. Because that's why when they start attacking you as a person, they got nothing. And we do have a Lindell and a Peters. And you think they're going to shake her tree? She won't flip like a top? Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Get out of the way.
Yeah.
Because she'll say, but that's what they do. And then what makes you think they go to Harris and Bush? They're not going to flip on Patrick Burns. So the question I'm leaving you with is not all their guilt, not that that is the path of the money as we're going broke. And that's what happened to Musk. Audit, he's got to go, right? It's what happens. Do they go after Patrick Burns to get to Flynn? Or do they leapfrog, get Patrick Burns, don't try to flip him, but get Flynn? So what I'm trying to say in this game of low-hanging fruit, what you can't go is to the Department of Justice who led this insurrection, meaning it was their plan. Who would you use but the guy who trained the CIA with MK Ultra? I mean, it isn't like these little square holes and round pegs don't fit. Everybody fucking fits. so, so it makes me wonder how everybody else doesn't see this. Pretty obvious. So where does the low-hanging fruit end? They didn't do this to Peters. We didn't do this to Lindell. Not for a plan. Now, if they get the other ones, Staci Burk with the evidence, and then Harris and all, we get the broken convention, we get Sununu, we get Haley, we get maybe who is behind the next assassination right after this, right? Then why did they bring me the Pandora's box? Oh, then we get to open up the Senate and the Congress to an audit and the money that in New Hampshire. Wow, you see where it gets? Everything. So where does the low-hanging fruit end? Does it stop at Patrick Burns? Because it is Burns. You don't go, a piano wire to the judge who gave Peters 9 years. Well, let's think about this. Not what would you call it? The threat of murdering a judge for his verdict. And I don't know how many people have seen that, but he didn't look like a judge you wanted to screw with. Just my impression. How do you say that to a judge and don't go to jail?
That's my question.
Well, here's this. They're looking at it and go, we got a problem. And Lindell's like, hey, what do I know? It was from Flynn.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I've done this 1,000 times. I know how it works.
His only defense in the end was, well, I believed it, so I wasn't lying. It's like,
I told you, remember I was telling you, it is their
Cassidy.
best. Carrie Cassidy, she was smarter than everybody. She'll go to the grave going, yeah, Juan JFK Jr. I saw him. You know why? Because she knows all those years of selling you that bullshit. She better believe it herself. So here it is. Are they lying if they believe it?
Right.
And if they believe it, are they prosecutable? Which is why when you're talking about shapeshifters and werewolves, you know what they say? No, shit, I believed it. Well, there you go.
Right.
And that's the plan, and that's what they're doing. And they're all going to point finger. Hey, listen, it's not that they wouldn't corrupt the election. The Department of Justice fixed the whole fucking race. That's Flynn. That's the insurrection. Now, did we lose the election? Well, how about this? The Department of Justice, you know, with Durham and Barr, did they give you the Russian hoax? Who went to jail for that? And nothing. Just like you didn't get the Hillary Clinton's email. All this other bullshit. You were going to get it. It's coming any day now. I'm hearing the same bullshit now. How about this? They're going to open those what? Sealed indictments?
Yeah.
How long have you heard those from? They've got what? 500, 400, 700, and we can't open one? The game is to make you wait. The game is to have you think somebody's saving you. Here's this. And it's this simple. It took me 2 decades to bring this to you. We save ourselves. That's it. We save ourselves. We stand up and go, hey, listen, why aren't we demanding the audit in the Senate and the Congress? Yet we can watch ads and posts from all these politicians. Hey, this one made this much. AOC made this one. McConnell made this one. Pelosi got this. All right, we've all heard it. We're going to keep fucking hear it, and no one's going to do a shit about it. How about we audit them? If someone said audit Hunter Biden, wouldn't it have been a good idea? And
Yeah.
aren't we hearing that Joe Biden, they've what is it, 83 billion or something, move? I don't. Listen, whatever you think they stole, I don't know, times it between 100 and 1,000.
Yeah.
You think these bastards work for millions? No, it's Green New Deal and hey, listen, when they transferred the money to New Hampshire, that was 935 billion. That's more than your defense budget for this whole country. On top of whatever they had there already. That was one transfer. So we do have it. It has to be us that help it. I'm hitting you with this with absolute fact. We have a path. We even get to ask Trump, hey, you get Mike Gill's evidence? Then we get to ask, we want to hear that tape. You see how she said Stone and Sullivan? They're witnesses, which is why Patrick Burns and Roger Stone, when we tweet every now, and even with it will Qrash too, they've commented on some of our posts or our comments.
Yeah.
Why them? Fact is, we're going to hang this over Patrick Burns because he's the new target. That's who you look at. That's who you knew. Hey, Piano Wire, how'd you get away with that? And Peter's doing 9 years. Lindell look innocent to you? Hey, he's pointing to Flynn. Isn't that you too? Weren't you in Colorado? Didn't you? I mean, was it 700,000, the number of the day? That's
Yeah.
what he gets to Peters, and that's what he gives to Shelby Bush.
And he ninjaed his way into the Oval Office that night. That's what his own words. He snuck in, he ninjaed in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Into the same December 18th meeting in the Oval Office that his two buddies, Flynn and Powell, were in communication with me.
Yeah.
Sending it to Carissa and James Ceccarino that Staci Burk was working directly with. Directly was her words. You see, you take our last podcast, you put this podcast here. What you're seeing is entirety is how it happened. And we can ask ourselves from the assassination, from that meeting, the brokered convention, how much did Sununu have to do with this? How much Haley? Who was behind the shooting? Could it have been the military-industrial complex? Could it have been a Department of Justice? What happened thereafter? Oh, a lone gunman. Who called it? Patel? Bongino? Oh, Epstein killed himself. But sounds like somebody's closing doors. Oh, Kennedy? We went back to what? The lone gunman too?
Yeah.
What the hell have we figured out? What did all this stuff we're saying, hey, you like me, Trump saying, you know what, you're going to get all this. What did you get? Well, we're looking at a war, right? We're still broke. And I'm going to leave you again with this. I keep trying to leave. Qrash knows when I'm going to hang up. Think about this. We've just established that the Senate and Congress are corrupt, right? Taking bribes, taking payouts, foreign governments. And yet, rather than auditing them first, now maybe you'll start to understand why Musk lost it. Auditing first is that they're the ones who you get them You audit them first, all of it else combined. So why didn't we do that? Instead, what is President Trump doing with those same members of Congress and Senate? He's asking them to vote on the big, beautiful bill. Who seems like Musk didn't like it. And he's the one saying, hey, you're going bankrupt. We got to audit. So instead of auditing the Congress and the Senate, we're asking them for vote for your bill. Do you see a conflict in that? So if you know that they're crooks, you know they're criminals and traitors, you're going to what? Leverage them to get your vote? Or if you know they're criminals, how in good conscience are you having them vote on the future of this country at a point of war and bankruptcy? Are we going to trust the Congress and the Senate? You trust AOC? How about Pelosi? You trust McConnell? McConnell will get your ass in a war. We trust them? Or do we want to know, rather than saying how many millions they stole, let's find it. I can show you where they put it. Let's audit them. You see, that's how to do that. And it's not being done. And that's a concern. You don't have these people vote on your future. Let me ask you this. How'd that turn out for you so far? 36, 37 trillion in debt, looking at wars, right?
Yeah.
I go, that's those assholes. Hey, remember the Green Deal? Boy, did that go away in a second. Bang. And the borders. Somebody voted to open those borders. So all the billions you spent helping them cross the border are all the billions we're trying to kick them out. With the same Flynn podcasters all during the time told you that Trump was commander-in-chief for all those 4 years of Biden and open your border. It was his fault. If you remember, Qrash, remember? They said
yeah.
Cassidy and KFC, Trump's teaching you a lesson. Well, what if 3 million, 6 million, 8 million people died? Well, it was to teach you a lesson.
Yeah.
These are the Flynn people. I mean, come on now. I called them out then, and nobody was saying shit. No one should. So, all right. All right. I could keep going, but don't miss the importance of this last podcast and this podcast. It is a path. And if you go off of what I've been sending you is evidence. Everything that I've sent is evidence. We've got people scared and nervous. And they should be. And this thing with Burns and what you're seeing is that set up to something further. This deal is
wait
going to
and
be.
see. I just want to add his trial. They extended it for, I guess they delayed it until July 14th. I think the 14th. It could be the wrong date, but it's July. It's coming up in a month. So his time's up. So it's coming up soon. We'll see.
It's lined up that way. Do you remember how they went after Trump? Boom, 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 boom. See?
Yeah.
It's lined up. Remember, I keep saying movement to people. Stop listening to these lying bastards. Listen, movement. Let's see if you hear a complete tape. Now that's movement. Yeah. Movement is how they plan. See, they move pieces. You had to leverage Peters. Now everybody's going back going, hey, why doesn't Trump immunity? Why is he out? Because they want her there. I'm going to tell you this. Tina Peters will get out as soon as she buries Burns to Flynn.
Yeah.
Lindell might make a deal. You might even have a Dominion Company deal. We're going to say, hey, listen, we're going to file certain bankruptcy. We're on this. We're going to have you. They're going to make a deal. Staci Burk was all ready to make a deal. She's running over there trying to turn them in to save her ass. She'll take it doing a New York second. So it wasn't Harrison Bush. I looked them both in the eyes. I'm telling you, they'll take a deal. They were taking a deal when I was there. They were confessing. You'll hear in that tape is a confession. You're going to hear in the tape that Burke recorded to me telling her as what I should have done, exactly what happened. Play it all. Now let's see if you see it. But this thing with the movement, I'll tell you this one last thing. I keep on promising the last thing. But have you noticed the shift with a lot of people with President Trump right now? And do you see it comes from MAGA people? How about Tucker Carlson's filleting him?
Yeah.
Watch what happens with the Flynn people. Okay? This is part of the move. See, in other words, and I'm not saying good, bad, or indifferent. Again, not politics, movement. flag say to President Trump, who hired Bongino and Patel and Bondi, arrest somebody. I'm tired of seeing you assholes at fucking UFC fights and crying about staying at work till 6 o'clock at night. Boo fucking who? All right, Qrash.
Okay. So
Boo hoo.
boo-hoo, yeah. All right.
See you later.
See you, Mike.